One of the ways that awareness is talked about is, it's a metaphor that's used to talk about it often, is space. It's like space. It's said to be like space. And so the process that occurs when you have a sense of who you are is a process in which you seek to realize that. And so it's in this process of realization that there is this dialogue or these teachings or practices. And in reality, whether you're talking about meditation or the teachings or the dialogues, the outcome of the whole thing, if it's successful, will be that there will be an end to it in terms of the recognition that it was never necessary. The recognition that the more you talk about it, the farther away from it you get. And the farther away from it you get, the more frustration and concern and disillusion sets in until you give up the search. So one of the ways that this has been talked about is it's compared to space, like the space in this room. But then the question is, how do you know? If you look at the space in this room, why don't you do that as an exercise? Notice the space in this room. And then the question, if the space in this room is a metaphor for awareness, right? Because it has the qualities of awareness, it has no form, has no shape, right? Then the question is, how do you recognize the space? If you look at the space in this room, you recognize the space, do you not? Right? How do you recognize the space? It has no form, it has no shape, has no beginning, it has no end. How do you recognize the space? The definition of it wouldn't make a difference. It's just like the definition of view or awareness doesn't make a difference, does it? The definition doesn't, because the definition in and of itself doesn't allow you to sense it, experience it, be aware of it, know it, recognize it. If it did, then we could just have a meeting and give you the description of it and say, okay, you're done. But it doesn't go like that, does it? Okay, so back to the analogy of the space in this room. How do you know the space in this room? You know the space in this room by what is not the space in this room, yes? In the same way, as I harped on the last time we met, you know the awareness that you are by what's not that awareness. Yes? That's why I was saying last time, when you see what you're not, you're seeing what you are. When you see that the chair is not the space, you can see the space. By contrast. Okay? By contrast. So that's an important thing to understand, right? And then, of course, if you get more advanced, the thing that's distinctive, that's different from the space in this room, is that as you get more advanced, it's even true about the space in this room if you want to talk about it in terms of quantum mechanics. As you get more advanced, the space and that which is in the space is the same thing, right? Because at a level of quantum mechanics, right, there is no differentiation. It's a unified field, right? When you break it all down, right, What's it break down to? This is interesting. If you break it all down in quantum mechanics, what's it break down to? It depends on who you talk to, right? There are scientists that say that someday we're going to discover the God particle, right? That which can't be broken down. There are other scientists that say that's impossible. Right? But when you get to the level of subatomic particles, you're talking about probability theory now. In other words, now you're down to nothing that's got the possibility of something, right? Subatomic part, you talk about probabilities. That which is not yet manifest as a form, right, has the probability of manifestation given the conditions that exist. I don't want to get too deep into that stuff, but in terms of what we're here for, it's an interesting way to look at it, right? What we're here for. You could say that what we're here for is referring to your existence in this life, right? In terms of what we're here for. Without that which is not you, you wouldn't have the contrast to be able to recognize yourself. Some people say that who knows, but some people postulate that the purpose of our existence is so that God could see herself, right? But in order for God to see herself, God had to not be herself to look back. So it's not a matter of, what this is all about is not a matter of it's not a matter of being the awareness. It's not a matter of being the awareness, because if you look at your own life, that's not really what you're interested in. That's not really what you're up to, is to be the awareness, right? That's not what you're up to. So what are you up to? What's this really about? Right? Why are you here? What do you want? What are you up to? What's your interest? So what you're up to is you want to feel better. Right? What you're up to is you want to feel better? Nothing wrong. Okay, so I want to know, if I'm not this body, who am I? Right? And if you were to find out who you are, right, which means that what we're saying here in terms of the description of who you are turns out to be something that you actually experience, right? Then what? See, I'm saying that I'm asserting that you're not just curious. What do you really want? What is it? I said to earlier when I came in, we were talking, and I said that an interesting thing that Paul Hederman mentioned yesterday is that the fulfillment of all the activity of a human life, right? The fulfillment of all that, the outcome and the result and the fulfillment of all the activity in a human life is to recognize failure. That's the result that gets produced by all the activity, is failure. What do you mean by failure? Well, failure to experience the freedom and the happiness and the sense of ease and the sense of fulfillment, right? That whether you're aware of it or not is recognized as a possibility. Is it not? Whether you're aware of it or not is recognized as a possibility. How do you know that? Well, people are aspiring for it, aren't they? People are trying to be happy. They're trying to get happy. They're trying to be happy. They're trying to feel free. They're trying to be at ease. They're trying to be in acceptance of the things they can't change. Right? So there is this sense of a possibility that's there in the background all the time. It's kind of the driving thing, it's kind of the thing that's driving human activity and human behavior, right? when you really look at it, right? If I get more money, you know the game. If I get more money, if I get famous enough, if I'm powerful enough, if then what? Well, then I'll be happy. So obviously there must be a sense of the possibility that's driving the whole thing all the time. And then, as I said, the fulfillment of the activity is the failure. In other words, all the things that people do to get that don't work. That's why we say, it's often said in these teachings and practices, that when you are experiencing disillusion, that you're ripening, you're getting ready to encounter what's beyond this limited way of dealing with it all. So you stop trying to get what can't be gotten through these activities. You stop trying. And then when you recognize what's always been true, right? When you recognize the truth of who you actually are, and you realize it's always been this way. What I'm asserting is that no, not that you stop trying to make money or you stop trying to, whatever, in this world, right? But that you stop trying to use that to get somewhere that can't get you. That's all. They often say, that the things in this world that can be enjoyed should not, there's nothing wrong with enjoying life. There's nothing wrong with enjoying plenitude. There's nothing with enjoying security and all the things that are possible and available in this world. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The mistake is to think that that's going to get you what it can't get you. Right? It's like Paul says, I'm traveling lighter now, and my life is easier now because I know what I can get and I know what I can't get. I can't get what I already have. That saves me a lot of time, right? But I can get a pair of pants. Right? I can get a cup of coffee. That's not a problem. So now I'm spending my energy on reality instead of an illusion, right? I can't get what I already have. That's the deal. That's really the whole deal. You know what I mean? That you can't, see, it's kind of like you can't get what you already have, but you have to try. You can't help it, can you? No, you can't help it because you're conditioned and you're born into a game that's being played in which what's been agreed upon is that you can get it, right? We're living in a world where the conditioning is such that, and the agreement is pervasive, right? That you can get it, you can be happy. It's like people say, the evidence is pretty clear that money isn't going to solve your problems, right? The evidence is pretty clear that money's not going to make you happy, but I want to find out for myself, right? Let me win the lottery and then I'll get back to you, right? Even though the greatest suicide rate are lottery winners. So we will ignore the evidence, won't we? It's like Jim and I were talking about earlier, is that the evidence speaks pretty clearly that we continue to do the same things we've always done that never worked and are still completely committed to that they will, aren't we? How stupid. How stupid. But you see, that's the result of the conditioning. The conditioning conditions you to be an identity and a body. It conditions you to be an identity and a body, and conditions you to have that identity and body be in a world that is, to be in a reality in a world that is a function of what we agree is the case. Don't defy that. If you defy that, you're going to start getting, you're going to be looked at like you're causing trouble. How are we going to get the herd to run completely off the cliff if somebody starts saying this is the wrong direction? And then, what seems to be the case is when you become a seeker because you sense the possibility or you've tasted it. You know, everybody tastes it. Everybody has a sense of it because you are it. How can you not, right? So when you have a sense of it and you taste it, you then begin to seek it, to want to have it, to want to realize it. And what you have to come to see is that you have realized it, and this is it, and you are it, and it's happening right now. Well, and then, of course, what you say is, yeah, but that's not the way it seems, right? That's because the way it seems is what you're giving your attention to instead of the way it is, right? Doesn't seem like that. But, you know, when you break this down, why is it that it doesn't seem like that? Because the narrative, you know, like they used to have in Times Square, that news thing that was running across the building all the time. Familiar with that? It's like the way it is for most of us is that you're glued to that. You know, you're glued to that. You're looking at that, and that is what is telling you what's happening. Just like that thing is telling you what's happening, right? That narrative, that's telling you what's happening. And then while you're watching that telling you what's happening, you're ignoring what's happening. Because what's telling you what's happening is a very narrow, specific interpretation of what's happening, not what's happening, right? That's what the news is, isn't it? When you watch the news, it's a very narrow, specific interpretation of what's happening that's greatly distorted, that's taken to be what's happening. No wonder we're crazy. And so that's the same thing with this. It's like that voice in your head, that narrative that keeps running, that keeps playing, right? You learn about the truth about who you are, but then you stay tuned into that channel rather than allow awareness to be aware of what's happening. And of course, when you stay tuned into that channel, what you're left with is, yeah, but I'm not experiencing, you know, I get the concept of who I am, yeah, but I'm not experiencing that. Well, that's right, because you're busy. You're occupied. And what happens is that we're hoping and wishing that that voice in your head, that thought process, that will provide you. That's another way of saying that I want to be I want to be the awareness, but I want to be who I think I am. I want that me to be the awareness. Because that me, who I think I am, is what's being projected into the thought process, right? That's me thinking. I want that me to be the awareness. So tell me how to get that. Give me the formula to get that. That's what I want, right? That's what I mean, that you have to see, that you have to recognize that is a failure. And when you recognize that is a failure, that's a success. Because now you won't be attempting to get something you can't get, right? Now you won't be looking to think yourself into being who you are. You won't be looking for that anymore, right? You'll relax. You'll start to relax, and if you just start to relax and see things for what they are, which means that you see that narrative is an interpretation that's diluted, that's distorted. So I'm going to lose interest in that now, right? Because it's not delivering. I'm going to lose interest in that. If I lose interest in that, then I may have the energy to be interested in the truth, because my energy is not being sucked up by the lie, right? And then how do you know that's the case? Well, you don't know that's the case because you look in the mirror and see you now have a halo. You don't know it's the case. The way you know it's the case is because now that you know who you are, you're no longer stuck with who you thought you were. Although that still exists, it now can be an expression of reality instead of this lost soul, or as the Buddhists say, a hungry ghost. I love that. It really nails it, right? A hungry ghost, because a ghost isn't real, right? And it's never satisfied. That's a good definition of a human being, isn't it?